Hello, this is Kris Nelson for evolveconsciousness.org. I'll be explaining two infographics that I made earlier in the summer of 2014. The first one is called Hamster Wheel, Insulated Bubbles of Reality. This relates to natural law and how we are insulated from experiencing natural law and being able to correct it properly. This relates to previous infographics that I've done, and I did an audio-video presentation on some of those yesterday, and they've been uploaded, and they're in the presentation called Causality, Consciousness, and Natural Law. So the hamster wheel, insulated bubbles of reality, that's where we keep doing the same things, and then we're going to keep getting the same results because we're insulated from correcting our actions, because we don't experience the full consequences to our actions in order to recognize how they are evil and wrong and recognize the need to correct them. So in the middle, I have this little hamster wheel where we live, and then we're surviving. That's what we're doing. We're surviving and surviving and surviving. And then we procreate, and we keep surviving. And we got to enjoy life once we're out of the survival mode, right? So we just enjoy life. So from survival to enjoying life. Either you're having a hard time surviving, and if you're not, you got a higher standard of living, then your focus in life isn't on just bare survival. Now it's on the pleasure gratification, the pleasure trap. Just enjoy life. And then you die. And that's how most people live their lives. They live, they need to do something to survive, so they go to work, and they got to pay for the rest of their life in order to survive. And then they procreate. You got to keep the species going, and then just enjoy your life. And then you die, and then just keep the thing going on and on and on, generation after generation. Where are you going? Nowhere important, because I'm not learning about truth and morality, so I'm not going anywhere. Except for downwards. But we don't see that we're going downwards. Person doesn't see they're going downwards. They're all like, oh, I'm going upward. Things are great, society's great, my job's great, life is great, things are good. So they keep doing the same hamster wheel because they think things are good. They're living in illusions. They're living in a dream. So at the middle of the wheel, you have ignorance and apathy for truth. Why is this going to keep going forever and ever? Because people are ignorant and they don't care for truth. They don't want to seek truth. They're very content in their delusional reality bubble. Just live, survive, procreate, enjoy life, die, and then someone else, when they die, well, there's other 7 billion people already living this process, so it just keeps going. Then when someone else is born, when someone else is procreated and they're born, well, this cycle starts all over. So when you have the procreate at the bottom, just pop in another circle, and then there's life. And then they survive and they procreate, and then when they procreate, another one starts, and then the previous one goes to keep enjoying life, and then they die, and then everything keeps repeating. Is that the point of life? Seems pretty pointless to me. So we have two aspects. We're either going downhill, which is where we are now, or we're going uphill. So if you go downhill, that's on the left side. That's the left hand. And if you're going uphill, that's the right hand. So the left hand of God and the right hand of God. It's Isfet and Eris, and chaos and control, confusion, cowardice, apathy, ignorance, all based in fear. Or the right hand of Ma'at, Isis, order, freedom, clarity, courage, care, truth, and love. And it's up to us. We choose what we do. We are creating with the left hand of chaos, or we are creating with the right hand of order. It's all up to us. We are the ones doing this. So there's different groups of people. If you look at the bottom left, We have ignorance and apathy, which is people just in that cycle, just ignorantly going along. Some are passively creating downward. They're not necessarily aware, or they're not actively choosing to create evil into the world, so they're passively creating a downward spiral. They're just bouncing around or riding the wave because they don't have true care about right or wrong actions. They don't have true care. They have ignorance and apathy for truth. That's the opposite of true care. So they're stuck in their own reality bubble. They're just bouncing around from live, survive, procreate, enjoy life, die, and then those they procreated, they get to live and survive and procreate and enjoy life. So it's all about enjoyment. This is also the insulated bubble of realities because of the pleasure trap and enjoyment, which I mentioned in the previous presentation from yesterday, either on perception of reality, or perceiving reality, or the causality, consciousness, and natural law one. That we're trapped by the pleasure trap. We focus on ourselves, so this keeps us in our own little bubbles of reality because we're so focused with our comfort and convenience that we ignore the evils going on. And that's how we are the karmic creators as well. As I mentioned in the other audios, and I wrote a note and posted it on Facebook. It just flowed out of me on how it works. I guess I could read that right now. When reality is affected by our actions, what we sowed, this is cause and effect in action. This is natural law in action. Natural law is us. The natural law of the effects reciprocated and us reaping them is ultimately produced by our own actions, which produce the effects that we are going to reap. We are natural law. We created the cause that produces the effects that reciprocate back onto us. This is why we judge, offend, and insult ourselves, because it is all our own actions that represent us, and it is all our own choosing. Of course, there are individual aspects of cause and effect whereby you are done harm without actually doing things to harm others, but in the end, the aggregate aspect of understanding this is a result of all of our actions to ignore evil in the world and let it continue, and then just simply complain when the evil affects us personally in our lives, whereby we were ignorant and non-active about the evil going on in other people's lives. We only cared to do something about it when it affected us personally, because we did not understand that as long as others suffer, we also suffer. We only understand suffering when it affects us personally, because we lack true care. That is why in the end, even in our own personal lives, we have done no harm to another. We are reaping what we sow collectively as a species on this planet, because collectively, in the aggregate, we have allowed evil to continue. Because it was not affecting us. We only want to end evil, to act in our responsibility when it affects us personally, when it affects only us. That is why it is generated by us, because we did not act to stop evil when it was happening to others. And then evil came knocking at our door because we failed to act in our capacity as causal agents, as natural law causal agents of reciprocity and redress, to put down evil while we were unaffected to the degree we currently are in a personal capacity. We could have acted when it was impersonal for us and personal for other people, to stand together, unite in the service and sacrifice of truth and morality to end all evil. But no, we choose to not stand in the unity of truth and morality. As a result, evil perpetuated and eventually came knocking at our door. This is how we create evil in the aggregate, by allowing it to continue. This is how we are natural law ourselves. It is not God that will act. It is not God that creates our suffering and evil. People do not want to take personal responsibility for their actions. We are the ones that create evil. We are the ones that create our own self-inflicted suffering. and self-imposed enslavement, and we are the only ones that can act to end it. So long as we choose to abdicate our personal responsibility to truth and morality, to let evil perpetuate, we will eventually be in the position of receiving evil, even though we are not consciously aware of having directly done evil to another human being in order for them to hurt us in the way they do. In this aggregate understanding of co-creation, it is now understandable how we are hurting ourselves in the end through our own ignorance to allow evil to perpetuate. So that was my little note that I wrote yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday, yeah. And just explaining how we create evil and we are natural law. And this is how karma works. It could be hundreds of years later, and I mentioned it yesterday. But eventually it comes back on us based on what we did to create the situation. And if we don't stop the evil going on, then it'll perpetuate. It'll eventually come knocking at our door, and then we're going to complain because, oh, well, there's evil. Someone else did evil. Yeah, someone else is doing evil, so how come everyone isn't standing up against those doing evil and putting an end to it, and then there won't be evil in the future? No, so we let other people, oh, that's not my problem. They got to deal with it on their own. We're not going to get involved. And this ties into the pleasure trap and apathy arising from the pleasure trap. I have my infographic here from a Seinfeld episode where they're four egoic individuals unconcerned with the suffering of an innocent person, and they laugh at them. So it's a powerful allegory about our species and where we are headed unless we stop thinking in the psychopathically inspired ways where we are not compassionate about the suffering of other beings. So we need to be understanding and compassionate of other beings. Otherwise we're stuck in the selfishness and it's all about us. Me, my truth, my survival, my freedom. Alright, so back to the infographic. After ignorance and apathy, people, you also have the dark care. So some are actively creating downward, willfully doing wrong. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose to make things worse. So on the left side of the image you have the ignorance and apathy for truth, the people just bouncing around, living their lives, riding the wave, whether the wave goes down or up, they're just the ignorant masses who follow the leaders and do what they're told. Just little slaves. They don't think they're slaves because they're all focused about themselves and their enjoyment. Enjoy life and have fun, pleasure. The personal family, they care about their family, but that's about it. That's Satanism anyways, just so you know. But the dark care, they're not bouncing around. They're creating into that downward progression. They're creating the red arrows. So that's an active force of evil. They're creating the forces that generate that downward direction. Now there's also people in true care that some are actively creating upward with a care for truth to do right over wrong, as opposed to the ignorant who don't care and the dark care who are trying to create wrong over right. So we have the true care, and they're generating in, and they're putting in the blue arrow because they're trying to change the polarity of the downward aggregate force and direction we are going in. So all those people putting in the red arrows are generating evil, and all the people bouncing around are just allowing evil to be created, and it'll just get worse and worse and worse, and it'll end up in self-destruction. That's what ignorance and apathy gets you. But those in true care are trying to change the situation. They're trying to input the force of truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, and they're trying to create a quantum shift, an aggregate effect through causal factors in reality by manifesting effects that will change the direction. So what we need is more and more people doing the great work in true care, caring for truth and morality. So first is to learn about it, then you can share it with other people. When you learn about it and change yourself, then you're becoming that blue arrow. You change yourself and you create into reality the way it a better way, a way in alignment with truth, love, good, right, morality, and natural law, then you're doing that. And also when you speak it, it's not enough just to live it. You have to speak it as well to other people so they can change. Because it's not enough to live by example. People aren't just going to follow your example. Because they don't understand why that's a better way, why that is the right way. You have to actually talk to them. So that's the real blue arrow, is trying to affect reality and affect others. So we have putting in wrong action on the left and putting in right action through true care. You put in the wrong action through dark care, and you put in the right action through true care. Then you have the ignorant and apathetic morons who will let it go either way. As long as they get to enjoy life, then it doesn't matter to them much. So they're essentially generators of evil because they're in ignorance and apathy. That will generate evil in the end. Even if you start with a pure neutral state of 0, it will degrade into immorality if you don't care for morality. It will degrade into chaos if you have ignorance and apathy. So we have on the right here, finally unstuck from the cycle of riding along to hook onto the collective course and align with natural law to change the condition, join and harmonize with the flow of natural moral law. And it will take everyone combined. That's why everyone here is in true care. You can't have people just riding the wave. Because you see, riding the wave, in terms of, in nature, it only works, when you're riding downhill. You can ride the wave downhill. You're riding the wave is doing the work. The hill is doing the work. But you can't ride the wave uphill. Well, actually, the wave you can. In surfing, you can end up on the top of the wave and you can ride it up because it's always pushing forward. So I guess in terms of a wave analogy, you could ride the wave up. Alright. I was more thinking in terms of gravity. You can ride it down, but you can't ride it up. You're going to try to ride up into right action, into the right hand, but because you don't have any grip, you're going to be spinning. Maybe I could analogize it that way. So ignorance and apathy on the right side going up, you're just going to be spinning. You'll be living in that world, but you're not going to be creating in it. Just like the other one wasn't. They weren't actively creating evil. Well, in this one on the right either, you won't actively be creating evil. You're not going to be part of the solution. You're still part of the problem. So you need true care. And most people are stuck in the hamster wheel of distractions and repetition of programmed reality. They're along for the ride, rolling along, seeking pleasure, living in a bubble, as it all goes downhill. We are all stuck in the wheel cycle of the system and perpetuating its continuance. Few are looking at the hidden occult reality to empower themselves out of the loop and grab hold of the collective downward direction to change course. When we are united in truth and morality, then we can go upward into creating the true freedom and peace in alignment with natural moral law. We will integrate natural law into ourselves, our being, our lives, and move with the higher will as our own will. That's where you align the lower will with the higher will, and you choose the higher will instead of the lower will. So that's the end of this infographic. The next one is natural law causal agents. So this has a combination of previous work I've done, and it's just to give an overview of what the natural law causal agent is. So the natural law causal agents were working to activate, actualize, individualize, become the substantive, authentic, examined true self in truth, morality, and right. And that would be related to the natural law, alchemical distillation infographic, and as well the previous article I've done on substance and appearance, which I guess I should have done an audio on before doing this one. as this infographic came after my Substance and Appearance article. So it's to actualize, activate, individualize, become the substantive, authentic, examined true self in truth and morality. So we're either going from knowledge, care, courage, and the will of truth, morality and right. That's where we align ourselves. We choose to will ourselves in alignment with truth and morality instead of our own egoic will trying to dictate what is morality, because we don't want to understand objective morality, because we don't want to face ourselves in the mirror. Or in ignorance, apathy, cowardice, laziness of truth, morality, and right. So either you have the will of truth, morality, and right, and you live in it, or you're lazy because you don't care. You're a coward for truth, morality, and right. It's consciously choosing natural law versus rejecting natural law. So on the top left, I have the circle of life, consciousness, causality, and trivium aspects. So if you want an explanation on this, please go back 2 presentations to the one I did yesterday on causality, consciousness, and natural law. This is all explained. This is how we generate reality. So just briefly, thoughts, emotions, and actions. The internal aspects of thoughts and emotions generate our actions in the world. And we go from our input grammar, which goes to our thoughts, and we think, and then we're able to process and understand that input stimulus from reality. And we understand why it was manifested, and we also understand why certain other things were manifested. Then we have our emotion to develop the care to will ourselves in certain directions. So we will, with the courage and will, we manifest what we care to do. And that's the part of free will, choice, where we create the effect in the world, and then that's our response from what we receive from reality is to output back into reality as rhetoric and wisdom, and that's how to live and what to do, and how manifestation occurs is in the output. So in the middle here I have knowledge, care, courage, and will, where we're reaping the effects that come in. And then it goes through knowledge, care, and then courage and will. And then we're sowing the causes that come out. So if we put this with the previous infographic on the hamster wheel, in ignorance and apathy for truth, where we live, survive, procreate, enjoy life, and die. So I put that in the middle of it. But this instead of knowledge, care, courage, and will of truth and morality and right, now instead we have ignorance, apathy, cowardice, laziness of truth, morality, and right. So this is running the systemic loop. We just keep running in a loop, keep perpetuating the system, and nothing will change, which is what I have in the Care for Truth infographic, where the only way out of perpetuating our own self-inflicted suffering and enslavement is through care for truth and using natural law and living in natural law. That's the only way we're going to break out of the trap we're in. So this is running the systemic loop. It's programs of repetition going nowhere, like I mentioned in the other infographic. You're going nowhere. You're going in circles and you're just riding the wave. You're going nowhere except downward. And you don't even understand it. You don't even realize it, because all you're focused on is the pleasure trap. Because you're having fun, you're enjoying life, it's comfortable, it's convenient, you have all these luxuries. So hey, keep doing the same thing that you were doing. Why would you bother changing if you're comfortable and convenient in your life? There's no need to change. Everything's going good. And that's because reality is insulated. You're insulated from reality because you're in a bubble of reality that insulates you from understanding reality, from perceiving reality, and from experiencing, from feeling reality, from feeling the consequences of what you are a participant in putting out. You can't feel it, so it keeps going on. The evil keeps going on because you don't see how you're responsible for it. You're ignorant. That's why it's a trap. This is the pleasure trap. Is ignorance. Ignorance and apathy is part of the pleasure trap, but the pleasure trap keeps you in ignorance. It keeps you focused on your own selfish, my truth, my pleasure, my truth, my survival, and my freedom. And all you care about is your survival. So you see in this wheel here, this is amazing what I made here. I just realized it now. You have the two focuses, survival and enjoying life, and at the bottom, procreation, in order to continue perpetuating the cycle, so that we can be universal constructor units for the machinations of the system as cogs in a wheel. That's all we are. So here again, here it is. It's a cog in a wheel. This is how we live our lives. Put this in the machine. So here we are. We're just a big part of the clockwork of the system, of the agenda of the dark occultists. We're just a big cog. This is each one of us who are ignorant and apathy for truth. You stick this as a cog, and here we go. We got our notches. We live, and we survive and procreate, enjoy life, and die. And it just keeps going round and round as a cog in a machine. That's where we all are. We're all just cogs in the machine. We don't care for truth or morality. We don't seek to find out more about reality. We don't seek to understand why things are wrong, and once they're wrong, how to change them. So, you're in survival, and then you're trying to get to enjoy life, which is all my survival, my freedom, and then you procreate. This is all Satanism right here at the bottom. Survive, procreate, and enjoy life. Survive, procreate, and enjoy life. Just a cog in the machine going around. Nothing will ever change this way. It's all focus on survival and enjoying life. And the system is engineered this way. That's why we have economic survivability, whereby, it might be harsh in the natural world. It's not a caring world. Nature isn't caring, which I will go into deeper in my natural law big presentation. But other animals can survive for free. All they need is their own work. We cannot. Not in the Western countries. You have to pay taxes on land. You can buy land, but you don't even own the land. Because if you stop paying taxes, then they're going to take your land and take your house. Well, what the hell is this? You don't own anything. You have to continue to be an indentured servitude as a universal constructor in the system that provides you with economic survivability. Because without economic survivability, well, how are you going to have land to have a house if you're not paying? If you don't have economic survivability in terms of money to pay for those things, then you won't have those things. Because if you don't pay the taxes with money, even if you grow your own food and you do whatever on your land, if you don't pay your taxes, they'll take it from you. Because we don't live in freedom. We're all slaves. We're all just cogs in the wheel. So we need to break out of the cog in the wheel. We need to develop true care for truth and morality. So to have knowledge of reality, input accurately, to develop quality knowledge, so we can have quality truth, and we can care more about what we do in the world and what other people do, so that we can change things. Because if you don't care to change yourself, or if you don't care what other people are doing that's wrong, then nothing will change. If you don't change yourself and then work to help other people change, to get them to care to change, then nothing will change. If you change yourself and 7 billion people don't, well, good. You did change yourself. You've actualized yourself in greater degrees with truth and morality. But there's still 7 billion people in the world creating downward. You think you by yourself are going to bring everything up? No, you can't. Everyone together needs to be working together to bring things upward. And that works when everyone is living in that upward direction. And to get people to live in the upward direction rather than live in the downward direction, you have to get them to change their behavior, and that requires knowledge for them to understand. So, in the middle we had reaping effects with knowledge, care, courage, and will to sow causes in alignment with truth, morality, and right. But we also have the reaping of effects, the reaping of reality, input, where we're ignorant, we're not seeing things properly because, again, we're in this circle, which is a cog in the machine, but it's also a circle of... It's also a circle like a bubble, which is the reality bubble, which is an insulation from the consequences of our actions, from the consequences of how we live our life, which would require knowledge in order to understand. But since our input of reality, the effects from reality, we're choosing to be ignorant. We're choosing not to look, we're choosing not to care for truth and morality, which would have us seek to know more. And without that desire to seek to know more, well, you're not going to know more, because you don't have this desire to know more. So you're going to remain in ignorance, you're going to stay in apathy, which, since you're not even looking for truth, clearly you're in apathy, you don't care. Unless it's about your survival, your procreation, and your enjoyment of life. Then you care. But otherwise, about things that really matter, then you're apathetic and you don't care. So that's the problem with people. That's why it's Satanism. That's why, again, I really like this little systemic loop survivability circle I drew. The bottom three are Satanism. You know, it's all about survival, your truth and your freedom. You want to survive, screw the rest. You want to enjoy life, screw the rest. Whatever you can get at the expense of others, well, you'll do it. For many people, they will do it. Even some other people won't, but they're still Satanists because it's all about enjoying life, even if they won't step on other people's necks. It's still about their family and themselves and not other people and not other beings. And whatever evil continues, well, it's not their problem. And so they're still Satanists. There's different grades and degrees of embodying principles of Satanism, where it's about your survival and your self-preservation. There's different degrees of care for truth. There's the initial care for truth, where you're seeking, but maybe you don't care enough to seek to embrace truth once it's presented to you, or to investigate it once it's presented to you, such as the animal issue. Maybe you don't care for morality deeply enough. You have an initial care to go for things, to seek truth, but not enough to really face yourself in the mirror enough. So there's a second level where you care more. And then there's a third level and a fourth level where eventually you care for truth enough where you embody it. And this is in my care for truth, the diagram of truth. Level 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Eventually you embody it, and then eventually you can share, preach, and teach it to other people. So you're not going to be able to share, preach, and teach it if you're not living it, which is part 4, level 4, to teach it. Level 3, to become it, to be it. You're not going to teach it if you're not being it, because that's being a hypocrite. And you can't be it if you don't embrace it and understand it. And you're not going to embrace it and understand it if you're not seeking the truth and morality. So those are the different care for truth levels that I've uncovered in my contemplation in reality. Alright, so from that, we can go back to the bottom left. So here I have a recreated method, a recreated version of the aggregate sowing and reaping, which you can see presented in the 2 presentations ago in Causality, Consciousness, and Natural Law. So I do it in a different way. So we have the natural law, field, force, web, and our interaction with it and each other in the pattern of reality we create through action and behavior. So you see the 2 previous ones at the top middle and the top right, you have your knowledge, care, ignorance, or your knowledge, care, courage, or will, or your ignorance, apathy, cowardice, and laziness. But inside in the Trinity, it's all thoughts, emotions, or actions. Either way, you're using your thoughts, emotions, or actions to generate in reality. So now we see the natural law, field, force, and web. Here we have the units, us, where we have reaping effects from that web of reality. So everything's going around in circles, interconnecting. The force of natural law, field, and web. That's the force. And we're receiving inputs from that force, which goes into us as thought, emotion, and action as the processes. And then we output, we sow causes back into reality. We sow effects from us as causal agents. Yeah, so that's where because I put reaping effects and sowing causes. It's actually reaping effects and sowing effects. But we are the causal force. And the effects that we sow also become causal forces for other people as input. And that'll be more explained in the next natural law presentation I'm doing. So back to the bottom left, you see input. It comes through us, thoughts, emotions, actions, then we causally create an effect, and that effect goes and it's output into reality. So this is how karma actually works. If you want to understand it, this is how it works. We input, output, but you could have people, there's the flat circles of the interconnection of the web force and field. You can have, that goes on forever, in many directions for as many people there are in the interaction with reality. So you input here, but because everything interconnects and it goes around, it could affect someone far away. It doesn't need to be the two people. One person outputs into one stream that goes in that flows around in circular movements and then eventually goes into the input of another person. It doesn't need to be someone right in your contact or someone that receives the effect that you produced 5 minutes ago. It can be delayed. It can be 200 years because everyone is putting into this web and creating the world we create. Not the physical world I'm talking about, but creating the world of the actions we create and the behaviors in the world and the computers and the cars and the roads and all the artificial reality we create on top of the natural layer that existed before humans started to alter and change things. I'm not talking about that artificial layer. I'm not talking about the actual constructs. I'm talking about the ability we have to construct those artificial constructs. So the fact that we have computers is because Turing came up with some algorithms and made some devices, and then it eventually progressed and more people built upon it, but he was the original cause, and without him there would be no manifestations of the effects right now. And that's the way it works for everything. It's building upon things before, and everything is built upon and built upon and built upon, and even the secondary aspects of reality, the artificial constructs we create, are built upon the natural objects. That's the karma, is everyone interacting and things are set in motion, causal in motion, and more people adopt. Someone sells an idea or a product and more people buy into it, and then it becomes widespread across the planet. And who did that? Well, everyone did it. Everyone bought into it. Everyone was using PCBs. Everyone was using lead. Everyone was using poison. We're still using poison. We're all creating the poison condition on the planet. We're all a part of it. That's one example of karma. It's not reincarnation based. It's not past life based. That's all hogwash bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, it is. Because it's not grounded in reality. It's wholly belief. Right in your mind, in the imaginal realm of the subjective reality in the multiverse, you get fed a story. Or maybe it comes from other entities and demonic beings. I don't care. I don't trust a single one of them. They're all lower beings compared to humans as far as I'm concerned. So if you want to believe their stories, go ahead. It's still a story in your mind that you make into reality because you have no verification of that capacity. It's not grounded in reality. Maybe it's true. You're purporting it as an absolute truth. Go back to perceiving reality. What is reality and what is perception? Make the distinction in your mind of things that actually are and things that are possible, or maybe probable, or will never be verified because you can't verify them. But when I'm talking about truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, those are grounded in reality. They're grounded through us because we are the expressions of those things. That's why it's grounded in reality. You want to say, oh, there's reincarnation, what? Based on recollection of memories from alleged past lives where things match up? Okay. What about this belief in the Akashic record? See, there's other ways of looking at things. You could pull in data from a feedback with a record of consciousness, of memories. Anyways, I've explained this in previous audios a bit in the past few, dealing with ego, personality, identity, conscious, and the higher self and lower self. So that's like 6 presentations back or something. And I'll get into more of it into the future, but it's a really convoluted pseudo-spiritual conception people have of reincarnation and the soul and all this stuff and how they have an afterlife. It's all hogwash beliefs to make you feel better about your fear of death. Alright, so the last part, bottom right, It's pretty much a recreation of the previous infographic on the hamster wheel, insulated bubbles of reality. So I won't read the two sides, but we have an overall downward direction because we're all in this together. We're on one planet spaceship called Earth. Then on the right, it's a critical mass harmonized with natural moral law. Now we're in an upward direction change because it does take a critical mass, and like the previous infographic I mentioned, if you have the people in apathy, ignorance and apathy for truth and morality, running in the systemic loop, well, they're actually on the bottom because they're not actually creating the upward generation of force. They're only on the bottom, possibly pulling you down because they're not helping you go up. They might be attached to the previous methodologies of living because they're still in ignorance and apathy and cowardice and laziness of truth and morality. They still don't care. So even though everyone else is living in truth and morality, they still don't care about it. So they're still probably creating in the negative ways. So even though most people are creating in the positive ways, there's still a few creating in the negative. And in this case, we can get rid of them. Go make your own society, you lazy piece of shit. No, that is completely within natural law. Ostracization of people who do not comply to natural law, morality, and truth. You can go live in your own community. Go create your own self-destruction. You don't want me to control you? You're not doing any harm? Fine. But you don't want to agree to the way this community lives? You're still going to create? You're not creating direct harm, but you're still creating in bullshit and in falsity? Well, get out. We don't want you here. Gone. So the community of 100 people, there you go. One guy is back out into the wilderness, surviving on his own in bare survival because they want to be an ignorant, apathetic, stupid fuck who doesn't give a shit about truth and morality. Well, then get the fuck out of my society that I'm living to create in alignment with truth and morality, because I'm not letting a lazy piece of shit create in the negative direction, taking us away from what we're trying to create, but still leeching off of our better way of living. That ain't gonna fucking happen. You get the hell away from us. And if you want to start creating evil, then we're gonna put you down. If you're gonna create in my localized area of living with other people like me in true freedom and peace, because we understand the depth of truth and morality, and you don't want to, well, you're not gonna live with us. Go live with the other degenerates. While you still don't care about truth, even though I'm talking about it and trying to get you to care about it. Well, go with the rest of them who don't want to learn. And us here, we're going to try to build a new way of living, and we're still going to try to wake other people up. But we're not going to wait for them forever. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I tried to do first. I tried to create another way of living, but I didn't choose the right people because I didn't understand true unity enough. I didn't understand things deeply enough, which I do now. So the next time I try, I'll be doing it right. With people who are at my level, who can unite on the path that I walk, because we're on the same path at the same level. Capable of creating at the same level. Also in this new downhill, uphill version, on the left side, I've made it different. Rather than rolling around and bouncing around, this time I've put that if you're in ignorance, apathy, and cowardice and laziness for truth, just as I mentioned when on that note I read about how you perpetuate evil and you create your own self-inflicted suffering by ignoring the evil that is going on elsewhere, eventually it'll come knocking at your door, and then it's too late, because you won't be able to unite with other people, because everyone else will have been dominated and exterminated, and there's only everyone else left that was a coward and didn't want to do anything. So that's why ignorance, apathy, cowardice, and laziness is actually generating in that red downward direction. You can look at it as just bouncing around, but more deeply, just on top of just bouncing around and living in my survival, my freedom, and my truth without true care and morality, they're still actively creating the negative because they're just going with the flow. So that's why on the right side I had them with the dark blue rather than the light blue, creating in the light blue, because they're more on the negative side, on the dark side, so it's the dark blue. So even though they're going along to get along, they're riding the wave, it's still not true care to create in the light blue of the direction of the light blue line, which is the natural law. They're in the dark blue, so they're still not, they're not at the position of everyone else, and that's why they're on the bottom in the dark blue. So on the left, the light red is the general direction of everyone, but then you have people creating an even worse than that general direction, which is the dark care, to actively create wrong. And the arrow they have is a dark red arrow, to make the bright red arrow even darker compared to the blue, which is bright, and then the dark blue, which is still an aspect of the negative. Here you have the negative bright red, but you have an even darker aspect of the negative bright red, which is the dark red arrow, and that's the dark care. So you have the dark knowledge and dark care and dark will to create active wrong, and that's how you use your thoughts, emotions, and actions, is to create in that dark capacity through the dark care, and keeps things going down. And then you have true care people with knowledge, care, courage, and will, who are trying to create in the light blue to change the direction and bring it back upward again. So that's the end of that, I guess. So that was the presentation on the hamster wheel, insulated bubbles of reality, and natural law causal agents. So this was a big chunk of how we create reality, how we generate into reality to affect it and manifest the world we want. So we can manifest the world without money, manifest a world without government, manifest a world without religion, without falsity, without evil, without immorality, without suffering, without enslavement. We can do that. We have the potential and the value. But are we? How many people are working towards this? Not many people. Not many people care at all. That's a big, big problem. That's why true care is required, because not many people care at all. So we have, so what do you do? Where does your time and attention go? Are you improving yourself, or are you continuing to do harm? You know, the importance of your actions you can look at as the least important is where you do no harm, and the most important actions to correct are where you do harm. So what are you doing with your time and attention? Are you trying to figure out where you do harm and remove yourself from that harm? Are you trying to improve yourself, to remove the impurities, to remove the shadow, demon, darkness, negative, evil, and immorality? Or do you not care for truth and morality, and do you just let it continue and make excuses, justifications, denial, dismisses, and all the other bullshit, just so you can remain attached to your falsity? You know? Do you care to do the work to reduce your harm, or you don't care? So it's either you care or you don't. Either you care to work on yourself and improve yourself and eventually improve the world through, as a reflection of yourself, through an aggregate quantum effect of everyone combined will change the world. Either you care to change yourself, to change everyone else in that way, or you don't. And you just make excuses to not change because you are a lazy coward. Why? Because you're in ignorance and apathy for truth, because you don't care for truth and morality. You're in ignorance and apathy for truth, which leads you to the cowardice and laziness and truth and morality. And it's all from fear from truth and morality, because you fear facing yourself in the mirror. You cannot face how you are not right, how your life is not right, how things are very wrong, how you are very wrong. It's all ego. You're attached to yourself, self-image, self-concept, and worldview, and you can't bear to alter that foundational basis that you use to construct your ego personality identity construct. Lots of complex stuff, and psychology is very fascinating, this aspect of psychology, and lots for people to learn. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.